Jack Reeves hadn't fired a weapon in 5 years. Tonight, 3 shots shattered that peace with surgical precision. Mrs. Patterson's house looked wrong through tactical assessment, too quiet porch light, burning at 2 a.m. rental sedan, idling in the driveway with engine running and driver watching. The 70-year-old widow never entertained late visitors, never left doors unlocked, never needed rescue from Russian contractors who tracked Jack's daughter to the Bridgeport address through GPS surveillance he'd failed to detect. But she needed rescue now. And Emma, 7 years old, asthmatic, terrified, was somewhere inside with men who understood leverage and had no compunction about using children as currency. The text message still burned in Jack's memory. "We have the girl. You have what we want. Try anything she stops breathing." Permanently, Operation Ironclad was supposed to stay buried. 5 Marines deployed to Kandahar province in 2019, official casualty report reading 0 survivors. Jack had been legally dead for 5 years. New identity, new name, new life built on classified fiction that Sergeant Jack Reeves died recovering experimental weapons technology from compromised Afghan facility. Except he hadn't died. He'd escaped with Project Artemis, the AI targeting system worth $500 million that defense contractors and black market arms dealers would exterminate entire families to possess. Tonight proved they'd try. Jack moved through Mrs. Patterson's backyard with muscle memory, overriding rust, 15 years forced recon training versus 5 years civilian deterioration. The kitchen door surrendered to his lockpicks in 18 seconds. He entered low Glock 19, tracking smoothly across fields of fire that shouldn't exist in a grandmother's home. 2 hostiles, visible Russian contractors, professional bearing, tactical positioning. Mrs. Patterson sat zip-tied to her dining chair, duct tape across her mouth, eyes broadcasting fear and fury. The third man had to be upstairs with Emma, using innocence as body armor against the ghost who'd refused to stay dead. Bad tactics, terminal judgment error. The first contractor never registered threat. Jack's rear naked choke compressed carotid arteries with measured pressure, 12 seconds until consciousness fled, body lowered silently to linoleum. Transition smooth, already moving toward the second target. That man turned at precisely the wrong microsecond. Jack's K-bar knife found his shoulder-precise angle, disabling nerve cluster, non-lethal, but absolutely incapacitating. The scream died as Jack's palm strike compressed the man's larynx just enough to silence without killing. 2 down. 30 seconds elapsed. Then Emma screamed upstairs. Jack took the stairs at full sprint, all stealth, abandoned for raw speed. Door half open. Inside, third operator holding Emma against his chest. Makarov pressed to her temple, using a 7-year-old as human shield against a father who'd walked through worse odds in Helmand province. The man's voice carried Moscow accent and misplaced confidence. "The Artemis data. Now, or she dies." Jack's aim never wavered from the visible shoulder. "You kill her, you get nothing. I kill you, I still get nothing. Mutual destruction. Reconsider your position. Then we negotiate." Emma moved the small, desperate twist Jack had drilled into her during practice sessions disguised as games. Not escape, just creating space, shifting the hostage-taker's balance for critical fractions. Jack's first shot destroyed the man's weapon arm. Bone and tendon exploded, Makarov clattering free. Emma dropped and rolled exactly as trained. The contractor reached for backup piece with his offhand second shot punched through his thigh. Another non-lethal placement. The man collapsed, screaming Russian curses. 3 down, 90 seconds total. Emma wrapped herself around Jack's legs, shaking so violently he felt it through tactical vest and bone. He scooped her up, one-handed weapon, still tracking the writhing hostile, and back toward the door. "Eyes closed, sweetheart. Don't look." "I was so scared." "I know, but you did perfect. So brave." Sirens wailed closer. Catherine must have violated orders and called federal response. Jack secured the upstairs hostel with zip ties, carried Emma down to where Mrs. Patterson sat, newly freed, rubbing circulation back into purple wrists. FBI tactical teams flooded through entrances, weapons raised, voices shouting commands. Jack raised his free hand, letting the Glock dangle by trigger guard, keeping Emma shielded with his body. Jack Reeves, former Marine Force recon. Hostage situation resolved. 3 suspects secured, 2 kitchen, 1 upstairs. All neutralized, non-lethal. The team leader lowered his rifle fractionally. "You're the ghost. the ironclad survivor. That's me. But as FBI processed crime scene and EMTs checked Emma's vitals and Mrs. Patterson gave her statement, Jack stared at the GPS tracker retrieved from Emma's backpack, the device that had guided killers straight to an innocent child because her father couldn't stay dead when powerful people wanted him erased. His phone buzzed, unknown number. Impressive work, but we have more assets, more angles, and next time you won't see us coming. Attached photo showed Catherine Walsh entering Walsh Defense Industries headquarters, digital crosshairs superimposed over her professional smile. They weren't just hunting Jack anymore. They were hunting everyone connected to Artemis, everyone who stood between them and $500 million of military technology. The war wasn't over. It had just escalated. 48 hours earlier, the alarm clock read 5:45 a.m. when Jack's eyes opened. No grogginess, no transition. Combat sleep, 15 years of training that never faded. He lay still in the darkness, listening to the apartment's familiar symphony, radiator hissing its morning protest. Traffic on Halstead building toward rush hour crescendo. Mrs. Chen upstairs running water through pipes that rattled like artillery fire. Wind pushing against windows that didn't seal properly, whistling through gaps he'd meant to caulk 6 months ago. Nothing out of place, nothing wrong. But Jack's hindbrain whispered warnings anyway, the part of his consciousness that had kept him alive through Helmand and Kandahar and a dozen classified operations that officially never happened. He scanned the room from his position, door, window, closet, each potential entry point assessed and cleared before he allowed himself to move. The South Chicago apartment showed its age through peeling paint and warped floors. Water stains on the ceiling that landlord kept promising to fix outlet covers that sparked occasionally when he plugged things in. But military discipline kept it tight despite the decay. Corners squared, surfaces clear, everything positioned with purpose and accessible in darkness if needed. On the dresser, a photograph of younger Jack in marine dress blues beside a woman with kind eyes and dark hair holding an infant wrapped in pink. Sarah. 3 years gone, but grief stayed fresh as yesterday's wound. He could still hear her laugh, still smell her shampoo, still feel the phantom weight of her head against his shoulder during those last good months before the drunk driver and the intersection and the phone call that shattered everything. The black ribbon in the photo's corner caught morning light filtering through inadequate curtains. Jack pushed himself up bare feet, hitting cold floor. The chill helped wake his body even as his mind was already running through the day's calculations. Rent due Friday, Emma's medication running out, $18 hourly at a job he hadn't started yet. The mathematics of poverty that never quite resolved no matter how many times he ran the numbers. He moved through his routine with mechanical precision born from 15 years of military structure. 50 push-ups feeling the burn in shoulders that had once lifted wounded Marines over compound walls. 50 sit-ups, core muscles protesting but complying. The physical exercise connected him to the warrior he used to be beneath the maintenance uniform, reminded him that skill sets didn't atrophy just because circumstances changed. From the window he scanned the street with tactical habit impossible to break. Miller's blue sedan parked in its usual spot, Chen family's minivan with a dented bumper. Rodriguez, no different. Rodriguez, not his Rodriguez, just a neighbor who happened to share the name, hauling garbage to the curb in his bathrobe. Morning jogger and bright yellow jacket. Everything normal. Everything safe. No one was hunting Jack Reeves. Jack Reeves was officially dead, buried in classified files. No one would ever excavate Memorial Stone at Arlington with an empty coffin 6 feet under and a flag that had been folded with ceremony and handed to a mother who'd cried for the son she thought she'd lost. Emma's door stood half open the way he always left it after checking on her during the night. He approached silently, old training, making each footstep deliberate and soundless. She lay curled on her side, clutching Mr. Hoppy one-eared rabbit final gift from Sarah's last birthday before the cancer diagnosis that preceded the car accident by 3 months. Life had a dark sense of humor sometimes. Jack stood in the doorway counting Emma's breaths the way he'd counted them every night since Sarah died. In, out, steady rhythm, no wheezing, no struggling. Good night. The nebulizer sat on her nightstand beside 3 amber prescription bottles arranged in order of importance. Albuterol empty. Flovent 3 doses left. Singulair 5 pills remaining. After that, the mathematics got impossible. $700 monthly for insurance they couldn't afford. $340 for the emergency inhaler that kept her lungs functional. $18 hourly at Morgan Technologies didn't cover rent and asthma simultaneously. He'd been skipping meals 6 months so Emma could have seconds, and still the numbers didn't work. The rent notice on the refrigerator screamed in red letters, "Final notice, $850. By Friday or eviction proceedings begin." Today was Wednesday. Jack stood in a small kitchen as dawn light crept through windows, making coffee with the cheap grounds that tasted like burned rubber but contained caffeine. He made Emma's lunch with combat engineer precision sandwich cut diagonally because she said diagonal pieces tasted better, apple slice thin to prevent choking. Juice box positioned exactly right in the paper bag, decorated with crayon drawings of their family stick figure, daddy stick figure, Emma and stick figure mommy with angel wings. His wallet sat on the counter, leather worn thin from years of use. $127 inside. 43 until Friday's paycheck, that wouldn't be enough. He'd done the calculation 100 times, $127, $43 to 170, minus $850 rent, $680. Then add the paycheck, $720 gross, maybe $580 after taxes. Total, $100. Still underwater. Still failing basic mathematics of survival. Emma appeared in the doorway clutching Mr. Hoppy eyes, puffy with sleep, dark hair sticking up in directions that defied physics. She looked so much like Sarah in the morning that Jack's chest tightened. "Morning, Daddy. Did you dream about Mommy?" Always the same question. Always the same answer because consistency mattered to children navigating grief. "Every night, sweetheart." She climbed into her chair with the careful concentration of 7-year-olds trying to be independent. "What did you dream?" Jack poured her cereal generic brand box without cartoon characters because name brands cost too much. "I dreamed about the time she took us to Navy Pier. Remember, you were 4. She won you that giant stuffed bear playing the water gun game." Emma smiled, a memory lighting her face. "Mr. Bears, I still have him." "I know you do." She poured milk with focus that suggested the task required complete attention. Too much milk and the cereal got soggy, too little and it stayed too crunchy. The precise ratio mattered in ways only children understood. "Mrs. Patterson says you used to be a soldier." The word hit wrong the way it always did. "Marine, different thing." "What's the difference?" How to explain to a 7-year-old the distinction between Army and Marine Corps, the pride and tradition and brotherhood that separated branches? Marines are smaller, more specialized. We do specific kinds of missions. Like what? Jack sipped his terrible coffee, choosing words carefully. Like protecting people. Going places other people can't go. Making sure bad guys don't hurt innocent people. Did you fight bad guys? Memory flooded unwanted Rodriguez's blood soaking through his fingers. The screaming, the fire. The smell of burning flesh and melted electronics, Chen's body torn apart by the IED, William's final breath rattling in his chest, Harper's eyes going blank while Jack tried to stop the bleeding that wouldn't stop. Sometimes, when I had to. Did you win? The question landed like shrapnel. What did winning look like when 4 Marines died and 1 escaped, when the mission was technically successful, but the cost was 4 coffins and 5 years of nightmares? We did our job, that's what mattered. Emma studied him with eyes too old for 7 parsing subtleties that children raised in poverty learn to read. Are there still bad guys? Not for us, Em, not anymore. The lie tasted bitter, but Emma needed certainty more than truth. Bad guys never stopped existing. They just changed uniforms, tactics, targets. But 7-year-olds deserved to believe their fathers could protect them from monsters both real and imagined. His phone rang as Emma finished breakfast caller ID, making his chest tighten with familiar dread. "Patricia Chen, Mom." He answered with resignation. "Morning, Mom." Patricia's voice cut sharp even through phone speakers, carrying the disappointed tone Jack had heard since childhood. "I called Mrs. Patterson yesterday. She says you're working maintenance now." "Maintenance, Jack, with an engineering degree. It's honest work. It pays bills." "Does it?" "Because Emma's inhaler is expired. Because you're facing eviction. Because honest work that doesn't pay bills isn't honest, it's just work." Jack counted to 5, breathing deep through nose. "I'm doing my best." "Your best isn't good enough. It hasn't been good enough for 3 years." Patricia paused and Jack heard her own breath catch. Your father was a senior engineer at Boeing. He provided for this family. He didn't throw away his education to unclog toilets. Dad also died of a heart attack at 52 because he worked 80-hour weeks and never saw his family. I'm trying a different approach. Your approach is failing, Jack. Can't you see that Emma needs stability? She needs proper medical care. She needs a father who can actually provide instead of playing at poverty like it's some kind of noble sacrifice. The words hit harder because they carried truth. Jack stared at the expired medication bottles, the final notice the wallet, with its pathetic contents. What do you want me to say? I want you to accept help. I have money, your father's life insurance, his pension, my savings. I can send a no. The word came out harder than intended. We're fine. You're not fine. Emma's inhaler is 3 months expired. You're eating peanut butter sandwiches for lunch while she gets actual food. You've lost 15 pounds you couldn't afford to lose. Don't lie to your mother, Jack. I taught you better than that. Jack closed his eyes, pinching bridge of nose, where headache was starting to build. I appreciate the offer, but I need to handle this myself. Why? Because your pride is more important than your daughter's health. Patricia's voice shifted, anger giving way to something that sounded like desperation. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to help before it's too late. Before Emma ends up in emergency room again. Before you lose the apartment. Before, or, before I turn out like Dad, Jack heard the bitterness in his own voice. Working myself to death for a paycheck, never seeing my kid, dropping dead before she's old enough to remember me. Silence stretched across the line, heavy with shared history and unspoken grief. Patricia spoke quietly. Your father worked himself to death because he loved us, because he wanted us to have everything. Yes, he missed school plays and birthdays and bedtime stories. Yes, he was always at the office, but we never wondered where rent would come from. We never had to choose between medication and food. We never, her voice cracked. We never had to watch him struggle the way I'm watching you struggle now. Jack felt his anger deflating, replaced by exhaustion that went bone deep. I know you're trying to help, Mom, I do. But accepting your money means accepting your judgment, your constant comparisons to Dad, your disappointment every time I make a choice you wouldn't make. I'm disappointed because I'm scared. Patricia said it quietly, honestly. I'm scared you're going to break. I'm scared Emma's going to suffer. I'm scared I'm going to lose you the way I lost your father, just slower and sadder. You're not going to lose me. Then prove it. Take the help, or at least take better jobs. You have skills, Jack. You have training. You don't have to work maintenance. My other skills involve killing people efficiently. That doesn't translate well to civilian job market. You were an engineer, mechanical systems, logistics, project management. Those skills translate perfectly. You're choosing to work beneath your capability because, Patricia stopped. Because what guilt, penance, punishment for surviving when Sarah didn't? The words landed like incoming fire, precise and devastating, because they carried truth Jack didn't want to examine. I have to go. Emma needs to get to school. Jack, I'll call you this weekend, I promise. Your promises are getting expensive, son, for both of us. The line went dead. Jack stood in his kitchen, silence phone cooling against his palm. Patricia meant well, she always meant well. But accepting her money meant accepting her worldview. Her constant measurement of Jack against Michael Chen, the perfect father Jack could never measure up to. The man who'd provided everything except presence, who'd built a financial empire but missed his son's childhood, who died at his desk reviewing spreadsheets while his family ate dinner without him one more time. Jack refused to become that man. But he was terrified of becoming this man too, the one who couldn't afford his daughter's medication, who faced eviction, who lied about being fine when everything was falling apart. Emma appeared backpack ready. Was that Grandma? Yeah, kiddo. Wait, is she mad at you again? 7 years old and already parsing family dynamics. Measuring emotional weather, learning to read adult tension the way Jack had learned to read tactical situations. Children shouldn't have to develop those skills, but poverty taught lessons that came whether you wanted them or not. She's just worried. Adults worry about money sometimes. Are we poor? The question hung in kitchen air between them, honest and direct, in the way only children could be honest. Jack knelt to her level, meeting her eyes. We're not rich, but we have what matters. We have each other. We have a home. We have food. We're doing okay. But we can't afford my medicine. We'll figure it out. We always do. Emma studied him with those two old eyes, then nodded slowly. Okay, Daddy. But her face suggested she didn't quite believe him anymore. By age 15, he dropped her at Hamilton Elementary, watching her disappear through school doors with her too light jacket and hand-me-down backpack and the quiet dignity of children learning to be ashamed of circumstances they couldn't control. Then he aimed his 15-year-old Honda toward Morgan Technologies on the city's northwest side. The maintenance job was brand new, first day actually secured through temp agency after 17 applications vanished into automated rejection systems that filtered out anyone with employment gaps or military service or anything that suggested complication. $18 hourly, no benefits, probationary period 90 days, miss one shift and you're finished. The radio played news about Walsh Defense Industries' corporate espionage allegations, board conflicts, something about stolen technology, and federal investigations. Jack half listened, mind calculating Emma's medication schedule against Friday's paycheck that wouldn't be enough, no matter how he arranged the numbers. Route 83 cut through Chicago's industrial bones, abandoned factories with broken windows like missing teeth, rusted chain-link fences protecting nothing, warehouses sleeping off the city's manufacturing, glory with for lease signs weathering into illegibility. Empty, quiet, fast. Then he saw the Mercedes. Black S-Class hood raised like broken jaw, frozen mid-scream, hazard lights stuttering against morning gray. A woman stood beside it, business suit and heels absurdly misplaced against industrial desolation. Her phone hung limp in one hand, the universal posture of technological betrayal by devices that promised connection but delivered failure at critical moments. Jack's training cataloged details automatically before conscious thought, scanning for threats, mapping exits, calculating response times. Empty road. No backup visible. Woman alone. Vulnerable position. Vehicle expensive enough to suggest robbery motive. Time of day early enough for reduced witness potential. His watch read 9:15 a.m. The maintenance call was scheduled 9:30. First day. 15 minutes to make 40-minute impression on supervisor, who'd been cleared during yesterday's orientation. Punctuality wasn't negotiable. Excuses weren't acceptable. Probation meant zero tolerance for anything that suggested unreliability. $18 times 40 hours times 4 weeks. $2,880 monthly. After rent, barely enough for groceries and Emma's basic medications. Lose this job, they'd be homeless by month's end. Social services, foster care, everything Jack had fought 3 years to prevent. But Sarah's voice echoed from memory, soft and certain, the way she'd sounded in their kitchen before cancer and car accidents and everything else. We help people, Jack, even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient. That's who we are. And beneath that, drill instructor Vaughn at Paris Island 15 years ago, voice like gravel and gospel screaming in Jack's face during Hell Week. Marines don't leave people behind, ever. Not teammates, not civilians, not anyone who needs help. Because the day you walk past someone in trouble is the day you stop being a Marine and become just another asshole with a haircut. Jack pulled over. The woman turned as he approached, wariness sharpening her features. Smart reaction, isolated location, strange man approaching from vehicle. Every survival instinct screaming danger, calculating odds, measuring threat potential. He kept distance, hands visible, posture deliberately non-threatening. Open body language. Steady approach. Eye contact without staring. All the techniques he'd learned for approaching civilians in combat zones where trust was currency and one wrong move meant violence. Car trouble, she studied him for 3 full seconds, calculating odds. Her eyes tracked his movement, his posture, his hands. Professional assessment. This woman knew how to read people. Battery died. I've been stranded 20 minutes. Phone died too. Mind if I take a look? Kiss. Maintenance tech, mechanical systems. I can probably help. Something in his bearing must have registered as safe, or at least less dangerous than continued isolation on empty industrial road. She nodded slowly. Jack moved around to the engine and training took over automatically. The problem revealed itself in 30 seconds, corroded battery cable connection loose enough to kill power, but not loose enough to be obvious to casual inspection. Simple fix 5 minutes with proper tools, basic mechanical competence. Battery cable came loose, easy repair. Relief washed her face clean, tension draining from shoulders. Can you fix it? Mathematics warred in his skull with brutal efficiency. 5 minutes work, maybe 10 if careful and thorough. That left 16 minutes to reach the job site. 40-minute drive compressed to 16 minutes meant averaging 70 miles per hour on surface streets, accepting risk of speeding tickets he couldn't afford, pushing luck that had been running thin lately. But Morrison's face floated in memory, the site supervisor's expression during orientation. Probation means zero tolerance. You're late once you're done. Clear, clear. Yeah, hold on. He retrieved his toolbox from the Honda's trunk, the good tools, the ones that survived deployment to Helmand Province, and saw more use fixing Humvees and generators than his issued rifle ever saw combat. Tools he'd carried through 3 tours and 5 years of civilian life, metal worn smooth by use, each piece positioned in foam cutouts he'd made himself because organization mattered when seconds counted. His hands moved with practiced efficiency born from 15 years of military structure. Tightening cable, checking connections, ensuring proper seating, testing voltage with multimeter he'd bought at pawn shop for $8. Everything methodical, professional, correct. The woman watched with intelligent interest. You move like military. The observation caught him off guard. Most civilians couldn't spot the markers, economy of motion, situational awareness, the way combat veterans held themselves ready for violence that never came, scanning environments, automatically positioning themselves with tactical advantage, even in mundane circumstances. Former, you can tell. My late husband was Army, Ranger Battalion. Her voice carried weight of grief worn smooth through repetition. He moved the same way, always watching, always ready, even at home. Something softened in Jack's chest, the universal recognition between those touched by service and loss, the silent acknowledgement that some experiences marked people in ways civilians couldn't understand. I'm sorry. 4 years ago, IED in Syria. She said it matter-of-factly, the way people discussed weather, when weather had killed someone they loved, and discussion was the only way to make it manageable. They said he didn't suffer. I don't know if that's true or if that's just what they tell widows. Jack thought about Rodriguez dying on helmet cam, the wet coughing, the blood. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes it's fast enough that suffering doesn't register. Yuka's wife, 3 years, car accident. They stood in silence for moments, strangers bound by mathematics of subtraction, both calculating what remained when you lost half of everything that mattered. She spoke quietly. What branch? Marines. He deflected before she could probe deeper, returning focus to mechanical problem rather than personal history. Try starting it now. The engine caught on first, crank roared to life, settled into smooth idle that suggested no permanent damage. The woman emerged from driver's seat wearing first genuine smile he'd seen, relief transforming her features from professional mask to actual human expression. Thank you, really. Can I pay you? Give you a ride somewhere? No need, just drive safe. Where are you headed? I insist. His watch read 9:28, 2 minutes. I'm late, have to go. He was back in the Honda before she could protest acceleration, pushing him into seat engine, protesting at sudden demand for speed. Morgan Technologies was 12 minutes away with clear traffic. He'd be 5 minutes late. Barely late. Acceptably late for someone stopping to help strangers in emergency situations. Except Morrison didn't find it acceptable at all. The site supervisor met him at employee entrance, clipboard in hand, expression carved from professional disappointment. Reeves, first day, you're late. Yes, sir. I stopped to help someone with car trouble. I don't care if you stopped to rescue drowning puppies. Morrison's voice carried the flat affect of someone who'd delivered this speech many times to many workers who'd made many excuses. Probation means on time, every single time. No exceptions, no excuses. Clear. Crystal, sir. Morrison's face suggested he expected to repeat this conversation soon, that Jack was already categorized as unreliable, that the clock was ticking on probation from day one, minute one. Break rooms through those doors. Uniform should be in your locker. Start in Maintenance Bay 3. Report to Jenkins. The morning dissolved into industrial tedium that would have felt mind-numbing if Jack's mind wasn't already numb, checking HVAC systems with failing motors and clogged filters, replacing fluorescent tubes in offices where people never looked up, unclogging executive bathroom sinks, where people earned more in bonuses than Jack made annually while complaining about water pressure. Honest work, invisible work. The kind that kept society functioning while society forgot you existed. Infrastructure maintained by people nobody saw or thanked or remembered until something broke. Lunch break arrived at 12:30. Jack sat alone in employee break room, eating his packed sandwich, peanut butter, cheap bread, calculated nutrition, measured in grams of protein per dollar spent. Other maintenance workers clustered in their groups, discussing sports and overtime and weekend plans. Jack kept his back to walleyes, tracking entrances, old habits, impossible to break even in an environment that didn't warrant tactical awareness. His phone rang. Unknown number. Probably spam. Probably robocall about car warranty or student loans or something automated and meaningless. Jack almost didn't answer. Should have let it go to voicemail. Should have ignored it. But something whispered warning in his hindbrain. He answered. Hello. The voice came through digital distortion, synthetic and cold processed through software designed to prevent identification. Sergeant Jack Reeves, 5th Marines Force Recon, Operation Ironclad 2019. The sandwich turned to ash in his mouth. His entire body went combat still, adrenaline flooding system, while face remained carefully neutral. Who is this? Someone who knows you didn't die in Kandahar like the records say. You've got the wrong person. Do I? Then why did you just help Catherine Walsh on Route 83? Convenient timing, wouldn't you say? Ice flooded his veins, spreading through chest and limbs until he felt frozen despite break room heat. They'd been watching, following, tracking his movements, knew his real identity, knew about Ironclad, knew everything. What do you want? You'll find out. Soon. The line went dead. Jack sat motionless, phone against his ear, mind racing through implications. Someone knew he was alive. Someone knew about Ironclad. Someone knew he'd helped Catherine Walsh. Someone had been watching long enough to track his movements, identify his target position themselves for contact. Operational security completely compromised. Cover identity blown. Emma potentially exposed. His hands moved on autopilot, muscle memory overriding shock. Texting Mrs. Patterson, pick up Emma early from school, keep her inside. Don't answer door for anyone. We'll explain later. Her reply came fast. Everything okay, Jack typed. Just being cautious. Thank you. But everything wasn't okay, because Operation Ironclad was classified 6 levels above top secret, because everyone involved was supposed to be dead, because Ghost didn't make phone calls unless someone had disturbed graves that should have stayed sealed forever. Memory swallowed him whole, unwanted and visceral desert sun, beating down like divine punishment, 127 degrees in shade that didn't exist. 4 Marines in tactical formation. Rodriguez, Chen, Williams, Harper. Brothers, family. Men who'd saved Jack's life and whose lives Jack had sworn to protect. The mission brief had been simple: infiltrate compound, secure the package, extract, clean before hostiles could respond. But intelligence was garbage. An ambush came from everywhere simultaneously. Explosions turning night into day. Rodriguez screaming his name. Fire climbing walls, melting plastic, cooking flesh. Chen's body torn apart by IED parts, scattered across courtyard. Williams taking rounds to chest body armor, failing, blood spreading dark across desert floor. Harper's eyes going blank while Jack tried to stop bleeding. That wouldn't stop. And Jack crawling through smoke with data drive clutched against chest while his team bought seconds with their lives. Each one dying so he could escape, so the mission could succeed, so Artemis wouldn't fall into enemy hands. The break room snapped back into focus. Jack's hands were shaking. First time in 3 years. He forced them still through sheer will, breathing, deep and controlled. Box breathing technique learned during combat stress training. 4 counts in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold. Repeat until heart rate normalized and vision cleared and hands stopped betraying the panic crawling through his chest. The technique worked until his phone rang again. School nurse this time. Real voice human concern words that made his blood freeze. Mr. Reeves, this is Nurse Morrison at Hamilton Elementary. Emma had an asthma attack. Severe episode. We administered her emergency inhaler, but it's expired and didn't work effectively. Paramedics are here now. She's stable, but we need you here immediately. Jack was moving before conscious thought completed processing information past Morrison without explanation or permission, sprinting for his car, while site supervisor called after him with threats about probation and policy and procedures that meant exactly nothing when his daughter couldn't breathe. Engine roaring to life, tires screaming against pavement traffic laws, becoming suggestions rather than requirements. Emma's school was 8 minutes away, following legal routes at legal speeds. He made it in 5, accelerating through intersections on yellow turning, red pushing gaps that barely existed, accepting every risk because the alternative was unacceptable. The ambulance sat in school's circular drive, rear doors open. Emma on gurney, oxygen mask covering half her face, eyes tracking toward him with desperate relief. Her chest rose and fell with mechanical assistance, color slowly returning to lips that had been blue just minutes before. Daddy. I'm here, sweetheart. I'm right here. The paramedic blocking his path wore professional sympathy combined with professional assessment. Are you the father? Yes. How bad? She's stable now, oxygen saturation improving, bronchodilators working. But Mr. Reeves, the paramedic's tone shifted to careful judgment. That inhaler was 3 months expired. The medication degrades. It's not effective. She needs current prescription. Shame burned hotter than anger, more painful than any wound Jack had taken in combat. I know, I couldn't afford the refill. The new one will run about $340. We can give you samples to bridge the gap until you can get prescription filled. Thank you. They let him ride in ambulance regulations bent for emergency circumstances. Emma's hand found his small and cold despite spring warmth, fingers gripping with desperate strength. Her breathing steadied under oxygen flow, but terror hadn't left her eyes yet, 7 years old and confronting mortality in ways children shouldn't have to understand. Sorry, Daddy. Jack felt his heart shatter clean through sharp edges, cutting everything inside. Never apologize for being sick. This isn't your fault. None of this is your fault. Did you lose your job? The question hit like shrapnel, 7 years old and already calculating economic consequences of her own medical emergencies. Understanding that ambulances cost money, and emergency rooms cost money, and everything costs money, they didn't have. Don't worry about that. Tears tracked down her cheeks, leaving trails through oxygen mask condensation. I'm expensive, Mrs. Patterson told me. She didn't mean for me to hear, but I did. She said it costs a lot to keep me healthy. Jack's heart shattered, further pieces he didn't know remained breaking into smaller fragments. He leaned close, keeping his voice steady through force of will that felt harder than any combat operation. You're priceless. You hear me? Not expensive. Priceless. There's a difference, and you're worth everything, Emma. Everything. But her face suggested she didn't believe him anymore, that poverty had taught her to calculate her own cost to measure herself in dollars and cents and burden. The emergency room moved with bureaucratic efficiency that felt simultaneously rushed, and glacial triage forms, vital sign monitoring, doctor consultations that happened in fragments between other emergencies demanding attention. Emma's color returned gradually flush, replacing the gray pallor that had terrified Jack. Her breathing normalized under oxygen support, each steady breath a small miracle measured in saturation percentages, climbing from 89% to 94% to 97%. The doctor arrived 40 minutes later, clipboard in hand expression, suggesting she'd delivered this lecture many times to many parents who couldn't afford to prevent emergencies. Mr. Reeves, Emma's stable now. The acute episode has resolved, but we need to discuss her ongoing care. Jack nodded, bracing for judgment. Her current inhaler is 3 months expired. Albuterol degrades over time. It's not effective past 30 days beyond expiration. The doctor's tone softened fractionally. I understand medication costs are prohibitive, but the expired medication in asthma patients can be fatal. She needs current prescriptions. Not next month, not when budget allows, now. I understand. Do you, oh, the doctor held his gaze. Because this is her second ER visit in 6 months. The pattern suggests inadequate disease management. If it continues, social services gets involved. Not as punishment, but because asthma kills children when it's not properly controlled. The threat hung unspoken. Prove you can care for your daughter or lose custody. I'll get the prescriptions filled today. The doctor handed him paperwork. $340 for the rescue inhaler, $220 for the controller medication, follow-up appointment in 2 weeks. The hospital can provide samples for 7 days, but after that you need proper prescriptions. Jack took the papers, mind calculating mathematics that didn't resolve. $560 for medications, $120 in wallet, $580 paycheck Friday, till $350 short, even accounting for every dollar. The bill arrived sealed in manila envelope. Emergency visit, $340. Total owed $340 payment, due within 30 days. His wallet held $127. He was studying the numbers, trying to make mathematics bend to desperation when familiar voice cut through emergency room chaos. Jack, what are you doing here? Catherine Walsh stood in business attire, looking impossibly composed against institutional beige. The woman from Route 83. Up close in better light, her eyes held the same grief-forged steel Jack recognized from his own mirror, the particular hardness that came from surviving losses that should have broken you. My daughter, asthma attack. Concern replaced professional mask. Is she okay? She will be, eventually. Catherine moved closer, voice dropping to consultation pitch. The man who helped me this morning has a sick daughter and can't afford her medication. We manage. The lie tasted bitter. No, you don't have to. She pulled business card from her purse, pressed it into his hand with deliberate force. I meant what I said about the job. This isn't charity, Jack. It's recognition of capability. I don't. Catherine Walsh, CEO, Walsh Defense Industries. She gestured at the card. That's my direct line. Not assistant, not secretary. Me. The name triggered recognition. The radio news that morning, corporate drama defense contracts. Major player, serious money fund operating in worlds where Jack was furniture at best. Why would you offer a job to someone you met 20 minutes ago? Because in those 20 minutes you demonstrated more competence and integrity than most people I've worked with for years. Her gaze sharpened, reading him with professional assessment. You're military. What branch? Marine Corps. What unit? Jack held her eyes, letting silence answer. Catherine smiled slightly. Classified, which means special operations. Force Recon, MARSOC. That's classified too. Walsh Defense works with military contracts. We supply technology to units like yours. I know what classified means. She pressed the card harder when Jack didn't take it. Security consultant position. $85,000 annual salary. Full medical coverage for you and your daughter. No copays, no deductibles. Every medication covered. Starting Monday if you want it. Want it? The question was absurd. $85,000 would solve every problem, erase every debt, give Emma the life she deserved. But something screamed warning in his hindbrain, the same instinct that had saved his life in Helmand Province when streets seemed too quiet, when situations felt wrong in ways he couldn't articulate. Why you don't know me? You don't know if I'm qualified. I saw how you moved this morning. Catherine's voice carried absolute certainty. How you assessed that road before approaching. Hands that knew exactly what they were doing with mechanical systems. The way you're sitting now, back to walleyes, tracking everyone who enters or exits. You're not a maintenance worker, Jack. You're a warrior trying to be invisible. The observation landed too close to truth. I appreciate the offer. I'll think about it. Don't think too long. Call me by Friday. Position won't stay open indefinitely. She glanced at Emma through the exam room window. And Jack, your daughter needs you healthy and employed. Pride is expensive, sometimes too expensive. She left before he could refuse properly, card burning in his palm like evidence of opportunities he couldn't afford to take. The nurse brought Emma's discharge papers along with sample medications and itemized bill. Jack signed everything, processed nothing, mind-spinning calculations. $85,000. Full medical. Emma's asthma controlled permanently. rent paid with money to spare, food in refrigerator, a life that looked like living instead of surviving. But someone from Ironclad knew he was alive. Someone had been watching. Taking Catherine Walsh's job would put him back in the world, visible again, exposed. And if they wanted him exposed, wanted leverage. His phone vibrated, text message, unknown number. Touching scene, but if you take that job, Emma dies. You have 48 hours to meet us, alone. Come armed, come prepared. This is about Ironclad. And you know what we want. Attached photos showed Emma at school playground, yesterday digital crosshairs superimposed over her face. The image quality suggested professional surveillance telephoto lens, someone who'd been watching long enough to establish patterns and routines. Jack's blood crystallized to ice. He carried Emma to the car in careful silence, strapped her into booster seat, drove home on autopilot while his mind ran tactical scenarios. By the time they reached the apartment, a plan had crystallized with brutal clarity. First sweep for surveillance. The apartment looked normal at first glance, same peeling paint, same creaking floors, same water stains on ceiling. But trained eye caught details civilians missed. Jack moved through each room methodically, checking what only someone with operational security training would check. Living room window scratch marks on frame fresh enough to show bare metal beneath paint. Someone had jimmied it open recently. Emma's bedroom door standing at 93 degrees instead of the 90 degrees he always left it. Minor detail, but Jack's muscle memory registered the difference. His closet false bottom panel displaced by 2 millimeters. Invisible to casual inspection, glaring to someone who'd positioned it precisely. Someone had been inside, searched thoroughly, found his gear, or come close enough to worry about. Jack moved Emma into kitchen with her homework. Stay here, sweetheart. Do your math problems. I need to check something. Is everything okay? Just being careful. He returned to closet, removed the panel with practiced efficiency. The footlocker underneath officially didn't exist, purchased with cash, no serial number filed, containing equipment that Jack Reeves, the maintenance worker, shouldn't possess. Inside, Glock 19 with 3 spare magazines, each loaded with Federal HST hollow points. Tactical vest, lightweight ceramic plates, rated for rifle rounds. KA bar knife with 7-inch blade edge sharp enough to shave with. Medical kit containing quick clot Israeli bandages, chest seals. And beneath it all, wrapped in waterproof plastic USB drive labeled Ironclad, insurance in his own handwriting from 5 years ago. The photograph lay on top his team, Afghanistan 2019. Rodriguez, Chen, Williams, Harper. Jack. 5 men smiling at camera, unaware that within 72 hours 4 would be dead and 1 would become ghost. Jack's hand trembled, touching their faces. Rodriguez with his cocky grin, Chen with his quiet intensity, Williams with his 1,000-yard stare that suggested he'd already seen too much, Harper with his boyish enthusiasm that made him seem younger than 23. Brothers, family, dead because Jack had survived. Emma appeared in doorway before he could close the footlocker. "Daddy, what's that?" He closed it fast, but not fast enough. "Nothing, sweetheart. That's a gun. No point lying to child raised on honesty. From my Marine days, I'm putting it away." "Why do you have it?" "Because sometimes old soldiers keep equipment, in case we need it." "Do we need it?" The question hung between them, 7 years old, asking if violence was coming to their small apartment, if the world was about to get dangerous again. "No, but I need you to do something for me." He knelt to her level, keeping voice steady through discipline and love. "Pack your overnight bag. You're having a sleepover at Mrs. Patterson's for a couple days." "Why, Daddy has to take care of some old business, adult stuff, boring but important. Military business. Too smart by half, something like that." "Are the bad guys back?" Jack felt his heart compress. "There are no bad guys coming for us, I promise. This is just precautionary, like fire drills at school. Practice for something that probably won't happen." But his face must have betrayed the lie, because Emma's expression suggested she didn't believe him anymore. Mrs. Patterson answered her door with concerned expression of someone who'd raised 3 sons through 2 wars and recognized 1,000-yard stares when she saw them. She took one look at Jack's face and nodded without questions. "How long?" 48 hours, maybe less." "What kind of trouble?" "The kind I need to handle alone." She studied him with grandmotherly wisdom that pierced operational security. You've got that look, like my Frank had before his last deployment, the one he didn't come back from. I'm coming back, I promise, Ortiz. Frank promised too. She touched Jack's arm gently, but I'll keep her safe. You have my word on that. Thank you. Jack knelt before Emma in Mrs. Patterson's doorway, checking her backpack, her inhaler, her sample medications. Remember what I taught you? She recited from memory voice, small but steady. If bad things happen, call 911. Give them my name and address. Stay calm. Don't panic. Good girl. He pulled her close, breathing in shampoo scent of her hair, memorizing weight of her against his chest. And remember, Daddy always comes back. Every time. No exceptions. Promise? On my life. He held her for 3 seconds longer than necessary, then released her before emotion could crack his voice. Mrs. Patterson's hand on Emma's shoulder, guiding her inside door, closing on his daughter's worried face. Back at apartment, Jack inserted USB drive into laptop. Files opened under password protection he'd never forgotten. Ironclad 2019, Reeves. The documentation was supposed to remain buried forever, classified, 6 levels above top secret, accessible only to a handful of people with clearances Jack no longer possessed. Operation Ironclad. Top secret, eyes only. Date March 15, 2019. Location Kandahar Province, Afghanistan. Objective, secure experimental weapons technology. Project Artemis Team. Reeves T.L. Rodriguez. Chen Williams Harper status. Mission failure. All personnel KIA. After action report redacted. Technology status, destroyed casualties, 5 KIA, 0 WIA, 0 POW. Except none of that was true. Truth? They'd secured Artemis' next-generation AI targeting system that made conventional smart weapons look like stone axes. Artificial intelligence that could identify and eliminate targets with 99.7% accuracy at ranges exceeding 5 kilometers. Worth $500 million on black market. Worth immeasurably more in strategic military advantage. Truth, Jack had escaped with the datum while his team died covering his extraction. 4 Marines buying time with their lives so one could complete the mission. Truth Military had declared all 5 KIA to protect Jack's cover, to keep technology buried to prevent enemies from knowing America possessed functional AI warfare capabilities. Truth Jack had spent 5 years carrying weight of 4 coffins on his conscience. Video file sat at directory bottom file name that made his stomach clench. Rodriguez helmet cam final.mp4. Jack hesitated, cursor hovering over the file. He'd watched this footage 100 times searching for something he'd miss. Some way he could have saved them. Each viewing carved the images deeper into memory until he couldn't tell if he was remembering the video or the actual event. He clicked. The footage shook with movement, helmet cam perspective, making everything immediate and visceral. Explosions punctuated automatic weapons fire. Rodriguez's breathing came harsh through audio, elevated heart rate audible in rhythm. Jack, get out. Get the drive out. The frame jerked as Rodriguez moved, covering Jack's retreat with suppressive fire. Muzzle flash illuminated compound interior concrete walls pocked with bullet impacts. Contact left, Chen Williams cover right flank. More explosions. The camera tilted as Rodriguez took cover behind concrete barrier. Blood appeared on the lens edge, Rodriguez's blood from wound Jack couldn't see. Harper's down. Harper's down, Jack. You need to move now. The footage quality degraded as fire spread through compound smoke, obscuring everything. Rodriguez's breathing changed wet and labored the sound Jack had heard in Too Many Dying Men. Tell Maria, Rodriguez coughed liquid and thick. Tell my daughter her father. Explosion consumed the frame. Static. Darkness. Video ended. Jack sat in darkness of his apartment, tears tracking down his face, hands shaking. 5 years, and it still hurt like yesterday. Still felt like betrayal. Still made him question every choice that led to Rodriguez dying while Jack lived. His phone rang, unknown number, same digitally distorted voice. Did you enjoy the video, Sergeant? Your friend's final moments. Very touching. Jack's grief crystallized into cold rage. Who is this? People Rodriguez worked for before he was a Marine, before he wore the uniform, before he pretended to be loyal. Rodriguez was loyal. He died saving me. He died trying to stop you. The voice carried satisfaction at revealing this. Rodriguez was compromised, Jack, had been for months. We paid him $200,000 in February 2019 to deliver Artemis to us during the mission. But you ruined everything by escaping with the data. Jack's world tilted. You're lying. Check his bank records. Check his emails. Check the offshore accounts we set up for him. The voice paused. Rodriguez was going to sell Artemis to the highest bidder. We were the highest bidder. Then you survived, and our $500 million investment died with your team. I don't believe you. Believe what you want. The truth doesn't care about your feelings. Digital distortion made the words more menacing. You have 48 hours to meet us. Bring the Artemis data. Come alone. Location will be sent tomorrow. Try anything, and Emma stops breathing permanently. If Rodriguez was working for you, why did he help me escape? Maybe he had a crisis of conscience. Maybe he realized his buyers were terrorists who'd use Artemis to kill thousands. Maybe he chose redemption over money in his final moments. The voice turned cold. Or maybe he was trying to stop you from taking what was ours. You'll never know for sure. He's dead. You're alive, and you have what we want. What's stopping me from destroying the data right now? Because if that drive is destroyed, Emma dies. Her school, Mrs. Patterson's house, your pathetic apartment, we'll burn it all with her inside. The voice softened mockingly. You're a Marine, Jack. You don't leave people behind, especially not your daughter. So you'll do what we say, because you have no other choice. The line went dead. Jack sat in darkness processing impossible. Rodriguez, a traitor. Mission compromised from start. 5 years of guilt built on foundations of lies. Or maybe lies built on foundations of partial truth. Rodriguez starting as traitor, but dying as Marine. He needed help. He needed information. He needed someone who understood defense contractors and classified weapons and the kind of people who killed Marines for profit. He called Catherine Walsh. She answered on second ring voice carrying the crispness of someone working late. Jack, you said to call if I needed help. I said to call about the job. I need help, not for a job, for something else. Her voice sharpened, professional assessment kicking in. I'm listening. Walsh Defense works with military contracts, experimental weapon systems. Some. Why, have you heard of Project Artemis? Silence stretched 3 heartbeats too long, the kind of silence that meant yes, but I'm deciding how much to admit. Where did you hear that name? Answer the question first. Not over phone. Come to my office, now, tonight. It's almost 8 p.m. My office, 20th floor Walsh Defense Headquarters. I'll be waiting. She hung up. 40 minutes later, Jack stood in Catherine Walsh's penthouse office, floor-to-ceiling windows, framing Chicago's glittering sprawl. The city looked peaceful from this height, lights twinkling like everything was normal and safe and manageable. Lies, all of it. Catherine had coffee waiting, good coffee, in actual mugs rather than disposable cups, the kind costing more per pound than Jack earned daily. She'd changed from business suit into more casual attire, suggesting she'd been working late before his call. Artemis was my husband's final project. She spoke quietly, carefully, words chosen with precision. AI targeting system. Revolutionary technology. Dangerous in wrong hands. I know what it is. I've seen the specs. How? I was part of the team sent to recover it in 2019. Shock registered clean across her features, professional mask cracking. Operation Ironclad. That team was killed in action. Love them. One survived. She studied him with new understanding, reevaluating everything. You're dead. Officially what needed to be. Someone wanted that data badly enough to kill my team. I escaped with it. Military gave me new identity, death certificate, memorial stone at Arlington with empty coffin underneath. My husband died because of Artemis. Her voice carried 5 years of compressed fury, carefully controlled. Someone sabotaged his convoy in Syria. Made it look like insurgents, but it was assassination. Jack felt pieces clicking into place. Same people who killed my team. Someone's been trying to recreate Artemis using black market reverse engineering. They've approached Walsh Defense 3 times in past 2 years, offering to buy access to my husband's research notes. I've been investigating privately. I have the original data, Complete architecture. On a drive. Her eyes widened. That's incredible leverage. That's what they're threatening my daughter for. They wanted what back, 48 hours, meeting details coming tomorrow. That's a trap. They'll kill you and take the drive. I know. Then why tell me? Because I need to know who I'm dealing with. Who had access to ironclad mission details? Who has resources to track me for 5 years? Who has enough reach to compromise a force recon operation? Jack met her eyes. Someone inside defense industry, someone with Pentagon connections, someone who could have known your husband. Catherine pulled up her computer, fingers flying across keyboard. I've been building files, following money trails. It's taken 2 years, but I've found patterns. She turned the screen. Shell companies, offshore accounts, defense contractors with unusual payment structures. Jack studied the data, financial architecture designed for invisibility, money flowing through channels meant to obscure origins and destinations. This account here, Catherine highlighted a Cayman Islands entity, paid $200,000 to Rodriguez Elena Maria in February 2019, 1 month before Operation Ironclad. Jack's chest tightened. Rodriguez's wife. Exactly. Same account paid her another $300,000 after the mission failed. Compensation for her husband's death, or payment for services rendered. They're claiming Rodriguez was working for them, that he was going to steal Artemis and deliver it to buyers. And Jack thought about the video about Rodriguez's final words about 5 years of guilt and questions. I don't know anymore. Catherine pulled up another file. This shell company connects to Cortec Defense, major Walsh competitor, and Cortec has a board member who used to work Pentagon acquisition. She pulled up a photo. Donald Hartwell, former Assistant Secretary of Defense. Now he's positioned to profit from both sides' legitimate contracts through Cortec, black market sales through shell companies. You think Hartwell orchestrated this? I think someone with his access and connections could compromise classified operations, could arrange assassinations disguised as combat casualties, could hunt survivors for 5 years without being caught. Catherine met his eyes. And I think he killed my husband to steal Artemis research. Jack absorbed this tactical mind processing implications. They want me to bring the drive to a meeting tomorrow, probably planning to kill me and take it. Then we need a plan. They killed my husband, threatened your daughter. This is personal for both of us. Jack looked at her, this woman he'd helped on roadside that morning, this stranger who'd become ally through shared grief and professional necessity. In another life, they might have been friends. In this life, they were survivors trying to protect what remained. All right, but we do this my way. Military rules, you follow orders. She didn't hesitate. Agreed. Then we have less than 48 hours to prepare. He pulled out the USB drive, set it on her desk. This is the real Artemis data. I need you to keep it safe. I'll make a decoy for the exchange. What if they verify the data? Then I improvise. That's not a plan. That's the only plan that doesn't get Emma killed. Jack met her eyes, let her see combat forged steel beneath maintenance worker facade. I've survived worse odds. I've walked into worse traps. The people who hurt my team are going to learn why Force Recon exists and why ghosts should stay buried. Catherine held his gaze, then nodded slowly. What do you need from me? Information, resources, and a backup plan in case I don't walk out. You'll walk out. Maybe. But if I don't, I need someone who knows the truth. Someone who can protect Emma. Someone who can finish what we started. You have my word. Jack stood preparing to leave, then paused. One more thing. If Rodriguez was dirty, why did he help me escape? Why buy time for me to get out with the data? Maybe he had a crisis of conscience. Maybe he realized his mistake too late to stop it, but not too late to fix it. Catherine's voice softened. Or maybe he was your brother until the end, and money couldn't change that. Jack wanted to believe that, needed to believe that, but 5 years of guilt and questions and doubt made certainty impossible. He left her office with more questions than answers, but also with the beginning of a plan. 48 hours until the meeting. 48 hours to prepare for war that officially ended 5 years ago, but had never really stopped. Outside, Chicago's night swallowed him into its sprawl of lights and shadows. Jack walked to his car, every sense heightened, scanning for surveillance, for threats for the watchers he knew were out there. His phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number. Tomorrow 8 p.m. Warehouse 7, Port of Chicago. Bring the drive. Come alone. Final warning. Below that, another photo. This one showed Catherine leaving Walsh Defense Headquarters 30 minutes ago, crosshairs over her head. The message was clear. They're watching everyone. Trust no one. Comply or people die. Jack sat in his car staring at the screen, feeling the weight of impossible choices pressing down. Save Emma. Protect Catherine. Stop terrorists from acquiring Artemis. Don't get killed in the process. Marines don't leave people behind. But sometimes the mission required choosing who lived and who died and living with those choices afterward. Jack started his engine pointing toward home mine, already running through tactical scenarios for tomorrow night. Warehouse 7, Port of Chicago, abandoned industrial zone perfect for ambushes and executions. He'd been dead before, survived against worse odds, walked out of situations that should have killed him. Tomorrow he'd do it again. Because Emma was counting on him. Because Rodriguez's sacrifice, whatever his intentions, couldn't be wasted. Because 4 Marines had died buying Jack time to complete the mission, and completing the mission meant staying alive long enough to protect what they'd died for. The war wasn't over, it had just entered its final phase. And this time Jack knew exactly what he was fighting for. Walsh Defense Headquarters rose against Chicago's morning sky like a monument to American military-industrial ambition. 20 stories of steel and glass, housing secrets worth billions, and people willing to kill for them. Jack entered through the executive entrance, wearing borrowed business attire that fit poorly across shoulders built for body armor rather than boardrooms. The Glock 19 rode concealed at his hip, illegal in this building, necessary for his survival. Catherine met him at the private elevator, her expression carved from professional stone that betrayed nothing of the 12 hours of chaos they'd survived together. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept, but her posture remained impeccable. CEO armor fully deployed. Hartwell arrived 10 minutes ago. Her voice carried the clipped efficiency of someone preparing for war conducted in conference rooms rather than battlefields. He doesn't know about Maria's arrest yet. His lawyer's been blocking information flow through legal channels. Good. Surprised men make mistakes. Desperate men make fatal ones. The elevator climbed in silence, floors ticking past like countdown timer. Jack studied Catherine's reflection in polished steel. This woman who'd been stranded on a roadside 48 hours ago, who'd transformed from victim into ally, into something approaching partner. Compartmentalization. Useful skill in war and business both. The board members are already seated, Catherine continued. 7 total, including Hartwell and myself. 3 are loyal to me, 2 are undecided. 1 has been in Hartwell's pocket for years. Which one? Richardson, chief financial officer. He and Hartwell go back to Pentagon days. Jack filed the information. In combat, you identified hostiles and friendlies before engagement. Boardrooms operated on the same principle with different weapons. The 20th floor conference room occupied corner real estate with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Chicago's sprawl. 7 leather chairs surrounded imported hardwood table polished to mirror shine. Hartwell occupied the power position at the far end, silver-haired and confident, wearing expensive casualness, like a uniform designed to project authority without effort. His eyes tracked Jack's entrance with predatory assessment, calculating threat levels, measuring responses. Professional recognizing professional, except Hartwell, had spent 30 years in Pentagon offices, while Jack had spent 15 years in combat zones. Different kinds of experience, different outcomes when violence became necessary. Catherine. Hartwell's voice carried the smooth condescension of someone accustomed to controlling rooms through force of personality. I wasn't aware we'd be entertaining guests during board business. Jack Reeves, security consultant. Catherine took her seat at the table's head, claiming territory with deliberate precision. Given recent events involving corporate espionage and threats against Walsh personnel, I felt his expertise was warranted. Hartwell's smile never reached his eyes. Recent events? You mean the rather theatrical incident at Mrs. Patterson's residence? Local news is calling it a home invasion gone wrong. Tragic but hardly relevant to quarterly projections. Local news doesn't have complete information. Catherine activated the wall screen, financial records blooming across the display like evidence of disease spreading through healthy tissue. Gentlemen, we have a serious problem. Someone has been attempting to steal Walsh Defense proprietary technology for the past 5 years. Someone with board-level access and Pentagon connections. The other board members shifted in their seats. Wilson, the CFO, frowning at the numbers. Martinez from operations leaning forward with interest. Thompson from legal, already calculating liability exposure. Richardson, Hartwell's ally, maintained careful neutrality that suggested he'd been briefed on potential trouble. Shell companies materialized on screen, offshore accounts traced through jurisdictions designed for invisibility, money flowing through channels that connected Walsh Defense competitors to black market weapons dealers, to Russian contractors, to a name that made several board members go pale. These accounts funded the theft of Project Artemis in 20, Catherine continued, voice steady as surgical blade. They paid a Marine Force recon team member to betray his unit during a classified recovery operation. When that failed, they've spent 5 years hunting the one survivor who escaped with the data. Wilson's voice carried the weight of fiduciary responsibility. Catherine, these are serious allegations. Do we have proof beyond financial patterns? We have confessions from 3 arrested operatives currently in federal custody. We have forensic accounting linking payments to the failed 2019 operation. We have testimony from Maria Rodriguez, widow of the compromised Marine who's cooperating with FBI investigation. Catherine pulled out a USB drive, setting it on the table with deliberate care. And we have this, the complete Project Artemis architecture, worth $500 million on the black market. The technology my husband died protecting. Hartwell's control cracked for the first time, subtle tightening around the eyes, fingers drumming once against the table before stopping. Micro-expressions that trained observers recognized as fear almost leaking through confident facade. This is absurd. Hartwell stood slowly, projecting outrage designed to intimidate. Some rogue element tries to steal technology, and you're pointing fingers at board members. I've served this company with distinction for 3 years. I've brought in contracts worth. You've served yourself. Catherine's voice cut like surgical steel. You've used your position to funnel proprietary technology to Cortec Defense, a company where you own 40% equity through shell companies registered in the Cayman Islands. Conflict of interest doesn't begin to describe it. Prove it. I am proving it right now. More documents appeared on screen, Hartwell's hidden financial holdings, his connection to the shell company's payment records stretching back 5 years. You pushed my husband to field test Artemis in Syria. You knew the route his convoy would take. You knew the timing. You arranged the ambush that killed him. The accusation hung in conference room air like smoke from discharged weapon. Board members stared at the evidence at Hartwell, at Catherine, whose grief had transformed into prosecutorial precision. You have no proof of any assassination, Hartwell said, but his voice had lost its commanding certainty. Jack spoke for the first time, moving from his position near the door. Start with Viktor Kozlov, Russian contractor currently in federal custody. He's been talking for 6 hours straight, naming names, providing documentation, explaining exactly how the money flowed and who authorized what. Hartwell's face paled. Victor is alive, cooperative, very motivated to avoid federal prison. Jack's voice carried combat cold certainty. He has records, Hartwell, transaction receipts, communication logs, video of meetings you probably thought were secure. That's inadmissible, likely fabricated. Jack pulled his phone, played the recording. Victor's voice filled the room with Russian-accented confession that left nothing to interpretation. Hartwell paid through Cortec, $2 million for the Artemis data, another $1 million to eliminate witnesses. He ordered the hit on Catherine's husband, made it look like insurgents, gave us the route, the timing, everything we needed to make it look like random combat casualties. The recording continued for 90 seconds, specific dates, account numbers, names of intermediaries. By the time it ended, Hartwell had gone from pale to gray, and several board members had pushed their chairs back from the table as if distance could separate them from the contamination. That recording is inadmissible in court, Hartwell managed. My lawyers will. FBI has the original. Jack pocketed his phone. This is just preview. The full deposition runs 4 hours. Very detailed, very specific, very damaging. Catherine stood, reclaiming control of the room. I move that we immediately suspend Donald Hartwell from all board activities pending federal investigation. All in favor. 5 hands rose. Richardson kept his down and Hartwell stood frozen, calculating odds that had shifted catastrophically against him. Motion passes. Catherine's voice carried the satisfaction of justice finally arriving. Donald, you're relieved of your position effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building. Your lawyers can collect your personal effects. Hartwell's hand moved toward his briefcase. Jack's hand moved toward his weapon. Time stretched the way it always did before violence, seconds expanding into eternity's options, crystallizing with brutal clarity. Hartwell's fingers closing around something inside the briefcase. Jack's palm finding the Glock's grip. Other board members, frozen civilians, suddenly realizing they were in the presence of men who understood killing. Hartwell pulled a Sig Sauer compact from his briefcase, aiming at Catherine with surprising steadiness for a man in his 60s. Pentagon bureaucrat transformed into desperate predator, all pretense of civilization stripped away by survival instinct. Everyone stays seated. His voice shook, but the weapon didn't. Catherine, you're going to give me that drive, and you're going to walk me to the executive parking level. Try anything, she dies right here. The board scattered chairs, toppling executives diving for cover, professional decorum evaporating into animal panic. Jack's Glock cleared leather, but didn't rise. Training overrode instinct. Shooting in a room full of civilians meant acceptable casualties, and nothing about this situation was acceptable. You're not a killer, Donald. Jack kept his voice calm, conversational, the tone he'd used talking down hostage situations in Kandahar. You hire killers. You fund operations. You sign checks. There's a difference between authorizing violence and committing it. I'm whatever I need to be. The gun's tremor betrayed his words, fear leaking through attempted resolve. The drive. Now that Catherine held up the USB motion, deliberate and slow. Its password-protected biometric lock. Only opens with my thumbprint and retinal scan. Kill me and the data becomes permanently inaccessible. Then you're coming with me. To where? Jack took a step closer, testing Hartwell's reactions. Buildings surrounded by FBI tactical teams. They've been in position since you entered this morning. Parking garage has 6 agents waiting. Every exit covered. You're not walking out of here, Donald. The only question is whether you walk out in handcuffs or on a gurney. Hartwell's aim wavered between Catherine and Jack, desperation overwhelming tactical thinking. You're bluffing. I never bluff about operational disposition of federal assets. Jack took another step. Put the weapon down. End this before it gets worse. You're a Pentagon man, you know how these situations resolve. Suicide by cop isn't the legacy you want. I want to live. I want to walk out of here with that data and disappear somewhere without extradition treaties. That's not going to happen. Then she dies and I take my chances. Catherine moved before Jack could stop her, dropping the USB drive, stomping down hard with her heel. 4-inch designer stiletto punched through Hartwell's full instep with bone-breaking force, and the older man's scream mixed with Jack's movement. 3 steps closed the gap. Wrist control weapon, retention leverage, and momentum combining into violence so practiced it looked choreographed. The Sig clattered across polished floor. Hartwell followed it down Jack's knee between his shoulder blades, zip ties materializing with practiced efficiency. 4 seconds. Fight over. Threat neutralized. FBI tactical teams materialized through doorways that Jack hadn't seen them positioning behind silent approach professional entry weapons covering every angle. Morrison led them, face set in grim satisfaction that suggested he'd been waiting for this moment. Donald Hartwell, you're under arrest for conspiracy murder, for hire, espionage, violation of the Arms Export Control Act, and about 15 other charges my prosecutors are going to enjoy presenting to a federal jury. Hartwell's face pressed against expensive flooring, voice muffled, but still defiant. This won't stick. I have lawyers. I have connections. Pentagon friends who will make this disappear. Your Pentagon friends are currently being interviewed by federal agents across 3 states. Morrison hauled Hartwell upright, cuffed hands secured behind his back. Victor Kozlov's testimony is very comprehensive. He named everyone, dates, locations, account numbers. Your entire network is being dismantled as we speak. They led him away expensive shoes scraping against marble, surrounded by tactical operators who looked disappointed they hadn't needed to use force. The board members emerged from their hiding positions pale and shaken, suddenly aware that corporate governance sometimes included combat. Catherine's voice cut through the chaos. Gentlemen, I move that we accept Donald Hartwell's immediate resignation, terminate his severance package, and open investigation into any board member who may have assisted his activities. All in favor. The vote was unanimous, including Richardson, who apparently recognized which direction the wind was blowing. After the board departed and FBI finished processing the scene, Jack found Catherine standing by the window staring out at Chicago's indifferent sprawl. Her shoulders carried tension that 12 hours of crisis hadn't quite broken, and her hands trembled slightly when she thought no one was watching. You okay? I've been hunting my husband's killers for 4 years. Her voice came quiet, exhausted. I traced shell companies through a dozen jurisdictions. I bribed informants and hired investigators and spent a fortune on forensic accountants. And now that I've finally found them, I don't know what to feel. Jack understood. Revenge provided direction, purpose, something to channel grief into action. Without it, the emptiness rushed back in. Feel whatever you need to feel, but not alone. She turned to composure, cracking for the first time. I watched them drag him away and I felt nothing. After everything he took from me, from you, from Rodriguez's family, I thought I'd feel satisfied or relieved or something. Satisfaction comes later. Right now, you're still in combat mode, running on adrenaline and survival instinct. When that fades, you'll feel plenty. He moved closer, close enough to touch if she wanted contact. It's okay not to know what you're feeling. It's okay to be confused. Catherine studied him with red-rimmed eyes. How do you do it? Carry all that weight without breaking? Who says I haven't broken? Jack held her gaze. Emma's the only thing that's kept me functional for 3 years. Without her, I'd have eaten my gun the first year after Sarah died. The confession hung between them, raw honesty that demanded equal vulnerability. The job offer still stands. Catherine's voice steadied as she shifted to professional territory. Director of Security, $150,000 salary, full benefits, Emma's medical completely covered. You've more than earned it. That's generous considering I just held a gunfight in your boardroom. That's earned considering you saved my life, exposed a traitor, and recovered technology that would have gotten thousands killed. She extended her hand. What do you say, Jack, ready to stop being invisible? He thought about Emma in protective custody, counting minutes until he could hold her again. Thought about Rodriguez's sacrifice, whatever his original intentions and the debt owed to the dead. Thought about Sarah and the man she'd wanted him to be versus the warrior necessity had created. One condition, I train your security team my way. No corporate softness. Real threat assessment. Actual tactical response capabilities. Done. When can you start? Soon as Emma's cleared to come home. The marshals released Emma 48 hours after Hartwell's arrest, bureaucratic machinery finally grinding through paperwork and clearances. Jack collected her from the safe house, Mrs. Patterson hovering with grandmotherly concern that had deepened into something approaching family. Emma looked smaller than 7 years old, wrapped in an FBI jacket, 3 sizes too large, clutching Mr. Hoppy with white-knuckle intensity that suggested she hadn't released the one-eared rabbit since Jack left her at Mrs. Patterson's door. She ran to him without words, just desperate need for parental contact. Jack caught her and held on, feeling her heartbeat against his chest, counting her breaths the way he'd counted them every night since Sarah died. It's over, sweetheart. All over. The bad guys are in jail. You're safe now. Really over, no more hiding. Really over. We're going home. To the old apartment. Jack smiled, the first genuine smile in days. Actually, we're going to a new place. Better place. You'll have your own room. Walsh Defense maintained corporate apartments for executives in Lincoln Park, and Catherine had arranged immediate occupancy as part of Jack's employment package. 2 bedrooms, modern kitchen windows that sealed properly, walls that held paint without peeling. The kind of home Emma deserved. She chose the smaller bedroom, the one facing the park, where joggers and dog walkers created patterns of normal life, and declared it the best room in the universe. Jack watched her explore touching furniture that wasn't secondhand running water, that came out hot, immediately opening closets that didn't smell like other people's memories. Can I paint the walls, Daddy? Any color you want. Even purple. Even purple. They moved in over the weekend with help from Mrs. Patterson and Catherine, who showed up in jeans and casual sweater. Bringing pizza like this was normal, like CEOs regularly helped employees move furniture. Sophia, Catherine's daughter, introduced during the chaos, bonded with Emma over shared trauma and second-grade gossip, the two girls finding common ground in loss and resilience. That first night after Emma slept in her new bed beneath her new ceiling, Jack stood on the balcony overlooking Chicago's lights and processed the week's violence. Patricia had called 3 times, leaving voicemails that progressed from concerned to worried to something approaching desperate. He finally called her back. Jack, Patricia's voice carried relief and anger in equal measure. I've been watching the new federal arrests, corporate espionage, shootings, and you're involved. It's complicated, uncomplicated, now. So he told her, not everything, some details remain classified forever, but enough. The real circumstances of his supposed death, the 5 years of hiding, Emma's danger, Catherine's husband, Hartwell's conspiracy, Rodriguez's betrayal and possible redemption. Patricia listened without interrupting, which was unlike her. When he finished, silence stretched across the phone line. You've been dead for 5 years. Her voice cracked. I grieved for you. I held your daughter and told her Daddy was a hero. I visited your memorial stone at Arlington and left flowers and cried. I know, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't cover it. But her anger was fading, replaced by something softer. You did what you had to do to survive, to protect Emma. I understand that, even if I hate it. I should have found a way to tell you. Yes, you should have. Patricia paused. But you're alive. Emma's safe. That's what matters. I'm alive. I have a real job now. Good salary, benefits. Emma's medical is covered completely. The woman, Catherine, the news mentioned her. She's my boss. Is she more than that? Jack thought about the question honestly. Maybe, eventually, nothing's happened. But you want it to. I don't know what I want. Sarah's been gone 3 years. I'm still figuring out who I am without her. Patricia's voice softened further. Sarah would want you to be happy. She loved you enough to want that, even if it meant loving someone else eventually. I know. Come visit me. Bring Emma. I want to see my granddaughter in person, not through video calls and holiday photos. We will, soon, I promise. Your promises mean something different now. Patricia paused, but I believe this one. 3 weeks after Hartwell's imprisonment, a package arrived at Jack's new apartment. Return address, Marine Corps Archives, Quantico, Virginia. Stamped delayed delivery, 5 years. Inside a letter handwritten on Marine Corps stationery. Rodriguez's handwriting familiar from years of shared reports and mission debriefs. Jack sat at his kitchen table, Emma at school, apartment quiet except for traffic noise from Lincoln Park below. He opened the letter with hands that trembled slightly. Jack, if you are reading this, I'm dead, and you probably hate me. You should. I was dirty. I know that now. I thought I was being smart, providing for Maria and Sophia the way a father should. $500 million changes everything. Changes how you think, changes what you're willing to do, changes who you are. But it made me a traitor. I know that too. By the time I realized what I'd done, that the buyers weren't freedom fighters but terrorists, that Artemis in their hands would kill thousands, maybe millions, it was too late. The mission was already planned. The team was already deploying. My family was already compromised. So I made a choice. I couldn't stop the mission. But I could make sure you got out with the data. I could make sure Artemis never reached the people I'd promised it to. I died trying to redeem myself, not trying to stop you, trying to protect you, trying to fix what I'd broken. Tell Maria I'm sorry. She knew what I was doing. She was part of it, but tell her I'm sorry anyway. Tell Sophia her father was a Marine who remembered his oath at the end, who chose honor over money when it mattered most. Let her believe that even if it's only partially true. And Jack, forgive yourself. You did everything right. You were the only one of us who stayed true from start to finish. You were the hero. I was just the guy who finally stopped being a coward. Semper Fi, brother. I'll see you on the other side. Rodriguez. Jack read the letter 3 times, tears tracking down his face in the quiet apartment. 5 years of guilt. 5 years of believing he'd abandoned his team. 5 years of wondering if he could have saved Rodriguez by going back instead of escaping. And Rodriguez had been buying him time, choosing redemption, dying so Jack could complete the mission that Rodriguez's own betrayal had compromised. The truth was messier than simple heroism or simple villainy. Rodriguez had been both traitor and redeemer, sellout and savior. Human, in other words. Flawed and complicated and ultimately trying to do right when the stakes became real. Jack visited Arlington National Cemetery the following weekend. Rodriguez had been buried with full military honors despite the classified circumstances. His headstone, reading the standard inscription that applied to every Marine who'd served and fallen. Jack stood before the grave in civilian clothes, Emma holding his hand, spring sunshine warming the endless rows of white markers. "Your dad was my friend," Emma said quietly. "Before I was born, you told me stories about him. He saved my life, more than once." "Is that why you're crying?" Jack wiped his face with his free hand. "I'm crying because I miss him. Because I finally understand what he did for me. Because it's okay to cry when you lose people you love." "Mommy said crying is brave." "Your mommy was right about a lot of things." Jack knelt, placed his bronze star on Rodriguez's headstone, the medal he'd received for Operation Ironclad for surviving when 4 others didn't. It belonged to Rodriguez more than him. "You earned this more than I did, brother. Semper Fi. Rest easy." Emma squeezed his hand. "Do you think he can hear you?" "I don't know, but it feels right to say it anyway." They walked back through rows of white markers, past the graves of warriors from every American war, past the memorial to the unknown, past tourists photographing sacrifice without understanding its weight. Emma's small hand in his warm and alive, the reason everything had been worth it. 6 months after Hartwell's arrest, Walsh Defense announced the Rodriguez-Walsh Foundation at a press conference Jack attended, reluctantly, uncomfortable with cameras and attention but unable to refuse Catherine's request. The foundation would support families of fallen service members, providing scholarships, medical care, housing assistance. Everything Rodriguez had tried to secure through betrayal, now offered freely to those who'd earned it through sacrifice. Sofia Rodriguez became the first recipient. Full scholarship through high school and college. Comprehensive medical coverage. Housing assistance for Maria's elderly mother, who'd been caring for Sofia since Maria's imprisonment. Jack presented the award standing at podium in suit that fit properly now that Walsh Defense paid him enough to buy clothes that weren't secondhand. Sofia, 7 years old, same age as Emma. Dark hair and serious eyes that reminded Jack painfully of her father, accepted the certificate with quiet dignity that suggested she'd already learned hard lessons about the cost of choices. "Your father was a Marine," Jack told her, voice steady despite emotion threatening to crack through. "He made mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. But when it mattered most, he chose to protect people instead of hurt them. He chose honor over money. He chose redemption." Sophia nodded, clutching the certificate. "My mom says he was complicated." "He was, but he was also brave. And he loved you more than anything. Remember that." Maria watched through video link from federal prison, 25 years reduced to 15, for cooperation, crying silently as her daughter received help that Maria's own choices had nearly destroyed. After the ceremony, Catherine found Jack on the foundation's balcony, overlooking the city where so much had been lost and found. "You did well up there. Public speaking suits you." "It doesn't, but Sophia deserved to hear her father wasn't just a traitor." "Was he?" After reading that letter, Jack considered the question. "He was both. Traitor and hero. Human. Capable of terrible choices and noble sacrifices. I think most people are. That's more forgiving than I'd be. Forgiveness is easier when you understand the weight of the choices." Jack turned to face her. "Rodriguez had a daughter he'd do anything to protect. I have a daughter I'd do anything to protect. If someone offered me $500 million to secure Emma's future, and I was desperate enough and scared enough, I don't know what I'd choose." "You'd choose honor. You already did multiple times." "Maybe. Or maybe I was just lucky enough to never be that desperate." Catherine studied him with eyes that had seen too much loss to accept easy answers. "My husband would have liked you. He was the same way, always looking for the human underneath the uniform, always trying to understand instead of judge. I would have liked him too. He's why I started this foundation. Why I've spent 4 years hunting his killers. Why I couldn't let Hartwell win. She paused. But now that it's over, I don't know what comes next. Something good, I hope. Something that isn't about revenge or justice or settling scores. Like what? Jack let the question hang, feeling its weight. Dinner sometime, just us. Not a CEO and security director, just two people who've survived impossible things. Catherine's smile reached her eyes for the first time since Jack had met her. I'd like that. Saturday, there's the Italian place in Lincoln Park Emma keeps asking to try. Saturday works. Should I bring Sophia? Definitely. Emma's been asking when she can see her again. 1 year after Hartwell's conviction, Jack stood in his Lincoln Park apartment reviewing the life he'd built from wreckage. Director of security for Walsh Defense salary that covered everything with money to spare. Emma healthy, thriving, attending a school where her classmates didn't know about food stamps or expired inhalers or fathers who'd been legally dead. Relationship with Catherine progressing slowly, carefully, two people learning to trust after loss had taught them the cost of loving. Patricia had visited twice each time, softening toward the life Jack had built. She'd stopped comparing him to Michael Chen, stopped measuring his choices against a dead man's impossible standards. Progress. Healing. The slow work of family rebuilding. The JSOC email arrived on a Tuesday evening subject line innocuous enough to almost miss new opportunities. Recruitment inquiry. Sergeant Reeves, your recent operational work has attracted attention at the highest levels. Impressive resolution of a complex multi-year conspiracy. Tactical skills clearly intact despite extended period of civilian cover. We have situations requiring your specific expertise. Different threats from ironclad but similar stakes. Personnel with your background are increasingly valuable as threat landscapes evolve. This inquiry comes with full understanding of your family circumstances. Any deployment would accommodate your responsibilities as single parent. Support structures available. If interested, respond to this address. If not, this communication never happened. Semper Fi. JSOC recruiting. Jack stared at the screen, feeling old instincts stir. The warrior he tried to leave behind, whispering about unfinished business and new battles in the addictive clarity of mission focus. 5 years of hiding hadn't erased his training. Hartwell's conspiracy had proven his skills remained sharp. Someone had noticed. Someone wanted those skills applied to new problems. Emma's voice from her bedroom interrupted the calculation. Daddy, can you help with my math homework? Jack closed the laptop, putting the email aside for later consideration. Coming, sweetheart. He found her at her desk, purple walls she'd painted herself, posters of horses and astronauts, the stable environment she'd never had before. Her math workbook lay open to multiplication tables. I don't understand the sevens, she admitted. They're harder than the same. Jack pulled up a chair beside her, looking at the problems. 7 times 8, 7 times 9. The numbers that tripped up every second grader. Let's work through them together. 7 times 1 is 7. Good. 7 times 2, 14. They worked through the table, Emma's pencil scratching numbers while Jack guided her through the logic. Normal homework, normal evening, normal life that had cost blood and sacrifice to achieve. Daddy, Emma asked when they'd finished, are you happy? The question surprised him. Why do you ask? Because you used to look sad all the time, but now you smile more. Jack considered the observation. I am happy. I have you. I have a good bow. I have friends. Like Ms. Catherine. Like Ms. Catherine. Is she your girlfriend? We're friends, special friends. Emma's expression suggested she understood more than Jack intended to reveal. Sophia says her mom likes you, like likes you. Sophia's pretty perceptive. What does perceptive mean? It means she notices things. Oh. Emma finished writing her name on the homework. I think you should marry her. Jack choked slightly. We're not there yet. But you will be, I can tell. She closed her workbook with 7-year-old certainty. And then Sophia and I will be sisters. It doesn't quite work that way. It should. Emma hugged him suddenly fiercely. I'm glad you're happy, Daddy. You deserve it. Jack held her breathing in shampoo and safety, feeling the weight of her trust. This was why he'd survived Ironclad. Why he'd hidden for 5 years. Why he'd fought through impossible odds to protect one 7-year-old girl who believed her father could do anything. You deserve it too, Em. All of it. That Saturday, Catherine brought Sophia to the Italian restaurant, and the four of them shared a meal that felt like family dinner without anyone using the word. Emma and Sophia giggled over pasta. Catherine and Jack talked about work and life and nothing in particular. Normal evening, normal people, normal happiness built from extraordinary circumstances. Walking home afterward, Emma and Sophia running ahead through Lincoln Park's paths, Catherine's hand found Jack's in the darkness. She asked me to marry you, Catherine admitted. Jack laughed. Sophia, too. Apparently they've been planning. 7-year-olds are terrifying when they coordinate. They're not wrong, though. Catherine's fingers intertwined with his. About the direction this is heading. No, they're not. They walked in comfortable silence, watching their daughters chase fireflies through the warm evening, two people who'd found each other through tragedy, learning to build something from the wreckage. Jack thought about the JSOC email waiting on his laptop, about the warrior inside him that would never fully rest, about the choice between duty and family that military service always eventually demanded. But tonight, duty could wait. Tonight belonged to fireflies and daughters and the woman beside him whose hand fit perfectly in his. The email would still be there tomorrow. The decision could wait. Right now, Jack chose the present over the possible future, the people he loved over the mission he might be called to. Some choices were easier than others. His phone buzzed. Text from Patricia. Emma's school photos arrived. She looks beautiful. You're doing good, son. Jack smiled, pocketing the phone. High praise from a woman who'd spent 10 years comparing him to impossible standards. Maybe he'd finally met them. Or maybe the standards had changed. Either way, he'd take the victory. Catherine squeezed his hand. What are you thinking? That I'm grateful for all of it, even the parts that hurt. Even ironclad, it led me here. To this, to you. She leaned into his shoulder as they walked, and Jack felt something he'd forgotten existed: peace. Not the absence of conflict, but the presence of purpose. Family. Love. Reasons to keep fighting that weren't about survival, but about building something worth protecting. The warrior would always be part of him, but tonight the father and the partner and the man who'd learned to choose hope over fear, those parts were stronger. Emma ran back to grab his free hand. Come on, Daddy. Sophia found a frog. Jack let himself be pulled forward toward his daughter's discovery, toward the simple joy of a summer evening with people he loved. The JSOC email could wait. This couldn't.